First pitch of the AB on its way. And fooled there as this is left in the air out to left center and shallow. Espinal backs up a bit and he takes charge of the first out.
In 1924, Paul Amadeus Dienach had been teaching the German language in Greece. Dying of tuberculosis, he wanted to return home to Switzerland. Before he left, he gave hundreds of pages of handwritten notes to his favorite language student, Georgios Papahatsis. Dienach thought translating his notes would help Papahatsis in his study of the German language. They said goodbye, never saw each other again. Papahatsis began translating the pages. There were whole passages about a coming nuclear war, colonizing Mars, and a global government, sections about flying vehicles, holographic technology, and contact with alien life. Papahatsis thought it was a science fiction novel. But as more and more of the text was revealed, Papahatsis was shocked at what he discovered. This wasn't a novel at all. This was actually Dienach's personal diary. Dienach
wrote to the changeup in there, 1-1. And set up behind the plate is Ricky Holiday, as you see the rest of our umpiring crew there.
Hey, D-Row, you better be up there ready to swing with Ricky Holiday behind the plate, particularly on that high pitch.
Yeah, and I don't like that, Dan. As an offensive player, that's the one pitch that you almost can't get to with a power guy on the mound. I'm okay with you giving a little bit on the corners. You start giving north, it makes it super tough.
It's May 1921.
Let's go Blue Jays. Oh my god, feels like I'm fucking at the Jays, except there's none of the fucking players that I usually see. But whatever.
Different men and women gathering around him, but he's too good to communicate. When he finally wakes up, his hospital room is different. People are dressed in unfamiliar clothing.
This is foul right side.
Being a language teacher, he recognizes a few words from English and Swedish. He tries to communicate. Nobody can understand him. One of the doctors...
Another one sent foul.
The doctor tries his best to communicate in broken German. He tells Dienach his name is actually Andreas Northam, a famous physics professor who had an accident. Now, Dienach says he has no idea who Andreas Northam is.
Neither guy giving in here, and they'll do it again.
Hey, having AB right here, I know it's frustrating the heck out of the pitcher. You keep fouling these pitches off, maybe one misses over the heart of the plate.
Ready to deliver the 1-2.
Has no idea what's happening to him.
And he fouls this one off.
Hey, 5 foul balls in a row, loving the battle in the box right here, making the pitcher work.
Set to deal on a ball and 2 strikes. And he can only battle for so long as he's finally set down here after an 8.
Is he walking? Oh, he's out.
All strikeouts are created equal. Right there, he goes down on strikes, but he really made that guy on the mound work for it. And when you're doing that in the first inning, it can have an effect on how deep he's going to be able to go into this start. There's a big difference between that and going down on 3 or 4 pitches.
He describes walls made of crystal that give you a panoramic landscape. Objects are made of...
So next up will be Freddie Freeman. And he hits it hard to the right side. And they'll have no play as he reaches first base safely.
Man, errors are never welcome. But to make one with 2 outs at the first is especially painful. Now your pitcher has to make extra throws, and that could make the difference in how long he lasts in this game.
Runner at first following the error. And set to go is the third baseman, Austin Riley.
Consciousness shift, where someone's mind or soul can be transported into somebody else's body.
First pitch on its way.
When Andreas Northam
swung on, but it's pulled foul wide of third.
Was injured in an accident. He was clinically dead for 15 minutes. Doctors dropped the temperature of his brain, and they were able to restart his
missed low and inside with it, 1-1.
That this personality shift occurred. The mind of Paul Dienach was transferred into the body of Andreas Northam 2,000 years in the future.
How does your consciousness get beamed into the future?
Well, Dienach wonders about this too, and he asks the electors about it. And they say that time isn't linear, that everyone's consciousness exists all the time, everywhere. You know, even though this is a rare event, it is something that's known to happen. It's at this point that a man named Stefan is summoned. Now, Stefan had been a close friend of Andreas Northam, and the electors decide that only Stefan and his doctors would know his true identity. To everyone else, Paul Dienach would be Andreas Northam, and Dienach would assume his life. Now, the electors believe that if Stefan could help Andreas Northam regain his memories, that the personality shift could be reversed, and Dienach would be sent back to his own time. So, Stefan agrees to visit Dinock every day to teach him about modern society. But Dinock is mostly interested about what happened in the past. Even though the doctors in 3960 understood the psychic personality shift, there was one thing that puzzled them. Back in the 1920s, Dinock was suffering from something called encephalitis lethargica, sometimes called sleeping sickness. And people with this disease have difficulty speaking, moving, staying awake. In the 1920s, there was actually an epidemic of encephalitis lethargica that affected over 1 million people around the world. But even though Dinock had been living in the future for a full 2 weeks, he never slept. He would stay awake throughout the night reading books, learning a new language, but he never felt tired and never actually fell asleep. He spent a lot of time using a new piece of technology called the Riga tree. And up until now, the most modern learning device Dinock ever encountered was a book. He describes the Riga tree as a handheld device with moving three-dimensional images that glow in the dark with sound, music, and narration. Kind of, yeah. And Dinock's doctors encouraged him to learn anything he wanted about the past, but they did not let him study the 20th century. They didn't want him to have knowledge about any historical event that he might be able to change.
So what did he learn?
Well, the years 2000 through 2300 are the most difficult for the human race. Overpopulation and regional conflict are the biggest problem we face. In 2204, we finally colonized Mars. Over 60 years, the population on Mars grows to 20 million people, but in 2265, there was some kind of planet-wide catastrophe, like a large impact event, that wiped out the entire colony, and we never tried again. In 2309, there was a medium-scale nuclear war that devastated most of Europe. Only the Baltic and Scandinavian countries survived, which is presumably why their language is an English-Scandinavian hybrid. Now, this war would be global and last for 80 years, and most of the human population would be wiped out. In 2396, a new world government called the Rechtsstaat was established, and this ends the ancient period of history and marks the beginning of modern history. What?
One world government?
Yep. When the Rechtsstaat was formed in 2396, it was a one-world government designed to end the global war. And it was a government like we recognize today.
Corrupt?
Pretty much. It was run by the wealthy and powerful, and countries around the world still had strong local nationalism, so they resisted the new government for about 200 years. Eventually, citizens stopped electing politicians and businessmen. Instead, the higher offices were held by scientists, philosophers, and humanitarians.
Please visit us online at
It does. And over the next 300 years, society starts to reform. In 2823, a world leader named Torhild proposed a new economic system. And this system is not based on global scarcity like our system. Instead, the system is based on global adequacy. It is at this point that people start working for the greater good. Initially, they work for 40 years of their life in their chosen field, and after that, they retire. All of their material needs are met by the global community. Now, as time goes on, technology and automation progresses so much that when Paul Dinock arrives, people work only 2 years of their life. They're educated through their childhood, and at age 17, they enter the workforce. They work very hard for about 2 years, and then they retire, able to pursue any type of life they want.
They work for 2 years? That's it?
That's it. Because in 3906, all material needs are met. Food, shelter, clothing, education, even entertainment. And money as we know it isn't used anymore. Instead, value is placed in art and science. You can absolutely pursue a career if you wanted, like Andreas Northam was a physicist, but you didn't have to work. If you wanted to live a life of leisure, as long as you completed your 2 years of service, you could do that.
Sounds to me like some hippie Star Trek socialite paradise food.
I admit, it does kind of sound like that.
You know, socialism and communism never work, right?
I know that, which is an interesting twist to the story. Let me ask you, why doesn't socialism work?
Because no matter how good most people are, there's always selfish jerks who want more.
That's right. Human nature gets in the way. Oh, fuck. But by the year 3906, we're not human anymore.
Wait, what?
At least, we're not human as we think of it. We evolve into something else.
From the belt, kicks and deals. Changed things up on him, and he got him to swing through it. 1-2 now.
He's gone to the well with that pitch 3 times in a row. I'm interested to see if he changes it up or not.
Layering additional systems and applications. NetSuite, on the other hand, offers an entire suite of business management applications, extending beyond accounting and finance.
Swung on and missed it. Got him on strikes.
Holy smokes. What's going on? How am I doing here? This is too much. striking everybody out. This is too much. Oh, did we switch?
Max
Nope, one more out, I think.
With a world championship on the line.
Oh, I got it. Here it is.
Max Fried, man, this guy's come a long way in a short time. This guy's as good a left-handed starting pitcher as there is in the game. Smooth gas, 95 to 97 miles an hour. Good overhand curveball. He'll mix the steady diet of changeups in. When he starts to put all three of those pitches together, look out. We're looking at one of the top left-handed pitchers in all of baseball.
Whoa.
Crazy swing here on a pitch that
I don't know.
hitting him.
One more and he's out. Fuck.
In the future, the human brain structure evolves and a new sense organ is developed.
Oh, and it's not often you see a guy like that flail so badly out there, but that was a great
spiritual knowledge. They call this ability oversight or supervision. And they gave people a new cognitive ability, instant enlightenment.
Sounds pretty good.
But you would think this new sense gave people feelings of incredible happiness and spiritual peace. And it's described as divine joy, acceptance of death, a disregard for all worldly things. And this feeling came all rushing at once.
People freaked out, didn't they?
They did. And everyone who experienced the Needleberg died. They died with looks of ecstasy on their faces.
Here comes
they were
the
so
1-0.
overwhelmed that they couldn't survive the event.
Now a big fastball, and he's well behind it with the swing.
Two pitch mix here. If you're in the batter's box, you're looking for
A little bit quicker, a little bit quicker.
sinker change up right here. Gotta get it up.
But he
I
survived.
fooled him badly there. I mean, it's 1 and 2.
Eventually, the
So bad.
Wash that one off because that was an ugly swing.
Homo sapiens then gave way to a new species of human. Homo
Swing and a miss on the fastball that time, out number 2.
So in the future,
The main
human
job
nature
of
itself
the number 1 and
changes.
2 hitters.
Present humans are hardwired for survival, competition, and success, even at the expense of others. So this utopian vision of the future just wouldn't work today. But what if you can change the actual wiring of the human brain itself? In 3906, there were hardly any laws. They weren't.
Corey Dickerson,
People actually.
as he'll try to hold back on the swing, but he went around for the first strike, trying to avoid becoming the third strikeout victim of the inning here.
Species. People in 3906 can't even imagine themselves acting like we do today. Paul Enoch finds the future people very strange. He says
Trying
they
to
act
bunt his
like
way
children,
aboard, but this will get
but you have to
fouled.
admit,
Hey, this guy's dialed in right now. 2 strikeouts and still working ahead. This is going to be a tough test for the
where he
offense.
had no fear, no envy, no anxiety. As Enoch's friend Stefan says, all these things
Into the
that you
windup,
hear
here comes the 0-2
to say that
pitch.
they are childish.
And no swing, apparently, ball 1.
Wow, was he looking to swing the bat right there? Check pitch on his swing. That ball wasn't even close to the zone.
Well, Stefan says they've already been contacted many times, and it turned out fine.
And tried to hold up in time, but to no avail as he went around, and the
That's
inning
it.
is over.
And around the galaxy, but they aren't interested in communication with us. Instead, they prefer to study us from a distance. But Stefan does admit they have intervened with the human race on a few occasions, like when our species was close to self-imposed extinction. Enoch learns that these extraterrestrial beings experience their own kind of enlightenment.
Needlework.
Needleberg.
What I say?
So aliens leave us alone to walk our own path.
As it'll be 5, 6, and
When
7
Paul
to
Enoch
go
was a
up
young
for
man,
the
he
second
fell in love
inning.
with a girl from his village named Anna. Though Anna felt the same, her family wanted her to marry someone else. Now, during one of their last moments together, they were sitting on a hill surrounded by blossoming windflowers, which are white buttercups. Now, Paul wanted this day to last forever because he knew he was losing her. So finally she said, "Enough for today, let's go back." And Paul said, "Promise me that I will see you again." And she said she promised, and the next time we're here, I'll make a wreath of windflowers for you to place upon my head. Now, Paul never did see her again, and this was something that tormented him his entire life. He would constantly pray for signs of Anna's eternal love for him, but those signs never came.
Okay, cute story, but where are we going with this? Let's get back to the crazy stuff.
Well, having spent a year with the people in 3906, Enoch developed a relationship with a woman named Sylvia. They decided to go for a day trip. They traveled in what Enoch called a Viciosa, which was a flying vehicle that could take you anywhere on Earth almost instantly. He decided he wanted to visit his old village, though Sylvia didn't know that's where they were going. So they spent the day talking and exploring, eventually ending up on that same hill where Paul and Anna were all those years ago. And windflowers were also blossoming that day. But while they sat and talked, Sylvia made a wreath of windflowers. She then looked at Paul Dinock and said, "Enough for today, let's go back." She hands him the wreath and asks him to place it upon her head.
Reincarnation?
Yes, Dinock feels like he's hit by lightning. He sees this as the sign he's been praying for his entire life. Later, he reflects on the day with Stefan, who reminds him that time isn't linear. Stefan believes Sylvia is the reincarnated soul of Anna, who 2,000 years later fulfills her promise. That night, Paul Dinock feels his eyes getting heavy, and he wonders if he'll finally be able to sleep at night from now on. And his last thought is how much he missed this feeling. Finally, Andreas Northam falls asleep for the first time in a year, and back in 1922, Paul Dinock awakens from a year-long coma. The story of Paul Amadeus Dinock is such a good one. But what really happened to him? Was his story real? Was it a hoax, a money grab? Well, there are a couple of options. The first is that he was telling the truth, that he really had a paranormal experience that sent him 2,000 years into the future. And if you read the entire book, it seems plausible. It's over 300 pages and it's full of details. There are hundreds of names, places, dates. Dinock talks about future technology like
reuse radar. Here comes the first pitch.
Flying vehicles, teleporters,
and he gets a hit.
Not the ideal location where it changes up on its own, but he got away with it.
It's actually great. The second option is that all of this Paul Dinock experience was reality. What was done before dreams?
You can dream in a coma?
Well, it depends on the illness and injury to the brain, but people definitely can and do. And if he was dreaming for a year, that's plenty of time to create a richly detailed vision of the future world. There's one more theory we have to consider, and it's the theory that I believe. It's that
The wind up and the 0-1.
never existed.
And a check swing here as he couldn't help himself, and it's ruled strike two.
It's been covered in a few blogs and podcasts and videos, and in all of them, the same photo of Paul is used. It's the photo I used in the thumbnail. It's this one here. But what's never mentioned is that this is actually the mugshot of Daniel Tohill, who was arrested for theft in New Zealand in 1908. Also, Paul Dinock lived in Zurich in the 1920s. That's not that long ago. The city has records of every citizen living in the city at that time, as the city of Athens, where Dinock was supposed to be teaching. But there are no records of anyone by this name, not even close. Now, Georgios Papahatsis, the translator and publisher of the story, says he tried to find Dinock years later, but couldn't. He attributed this to the fact that Dinock fought for Germany during World War I and actually changed his name before moving to neutral Switzerland, so we don't know what his real name is.
That's convenient.
Well, what's even more convenient is that the original handwritten diary is gone. Papahatsis said that while living in Greece during the war, his house was searched by the Greek military, and because the notes were in German, the soldiers seized them and never gave them back.
Yeah, sounds fishy.
It does. And others have noted the similarity of this story to a story written by H.P. Lovecraft called The Shadow Out of Time. Lovecraft's story is written in the first person like a diary, and the protagonist goes into a coma and wakes up at a different time.
Plagiarism.
Well, Dinock woke up in the future, and Lovecraft's hero wakes up in the past. Still, there are similarities. And The Shadow Out of Time was published in 1936. So if the story was inspired by Lovecraft, then there's no way it was written by Dinock in the 1920s.
So this Greek dude wrote a hoax?
I don't think so. Georgios Papahatsis was a highly respected law professor and intellectual. He even served as a jurist on Greece's Council of State. That was like their Supreme Court. So this was a serious guy. He was very interested in administrative law, social studies, and humanities. And these are the themes we see in Paul Dinock's diary. It's likely that the book was written as an intellectual exercise and exploration of human spirituality. And Papahatsis added the sci-fi twist and the love story as literary devices. Now, he probably didn't mean for anyone to take it seriously as something that actually happened, but there's no way to know for sure. I mean, this is the age of the internet, and if you write a story about a time-traveling coma patient, people are going to believe it. I certainly wanted to. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish. This has been The Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor and comment, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. It really helps us out. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated. Did you hear my stomach growl? Nah, we're keeping it.
day I wonder, and I dream of it every night. If someday I'll want.
On the bottom of our planet lies the frigid land of Antarctica, the coldest and most inhospitable continent in the world. Stretching over 5 million square miles, Antarctica is covered in ice sheets that reach more than a mile deep. The average daily temperature is negative 49 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind speeds can reach over 100 miles per hour. Today, the only inhabitants of this barren landscape are scientists who work in research stations scattered across the continent. Mainstream geologists have long believed that ancient humans never settled on Antarctica because of its hostile climate. But incredibly, in 2016, satellite images revealed a curious formation emerging from the ice that some researchers believe could be a man-made pyramid.
Recently, there's been a number of reports of pyramids, huge great pyramids in Antarctica. They jut out of the ice and snow,
down the line at
and
third.
they look perfect, just like those in
And
Egypt.
he'll reach first as they can't
But they
make the play
dwarf
on him.
those in Egypt,
I know
like
that
the
has
Great
to be
Pyramids.
frustrating from a pitcher's
One
standpoint,
has a
but nice
perfectly
execution, nice
square
hustle.
space
Bottom line,
that
nice
is 2
hustle.
kilometers
Pitcher's still
square in each
one
direction.
good pitch away from getting a double play.
Is it possible,
One of the things you want to do is
that
make
our
quality pitches as a
ancestors
pitcher.
did actually
There's
reach
not much you can
the
do right there. You make a pretty good pitch,
continent?
and the next thing you know, you have a leadoff single on an infield ground ball.
A man-made
Josh
pyramid
Peterson is at the
beneath
plate as he
the
watches ball one.
Antarctic ice. If such an incredible notion is true, then it naturally begs some questions. How was such a massive structure built on Antarctica? When was it done? And by whom?
Antarctica, we have been told from the geologists, has been under ice for many millions of years. However, there is evidence that it could have been free of ice, certainly in certain areas, until perhaps 4000 BC. There are a large number of stories from Polynesia of so-called culture heroes who reached the Antarctic continent. A French academic by the name of Arthur put together all of these different stories in a book titled Out of Antarctica. The Polynesian people's stories describe this strange land with these white rocks that come out of the water, which are icebergs and other creatures such as seals and penguins, and sort of describe an area that we now know as Antarctica. The Polynesian peoples believed this was the place of the ancestors. And they said, this is where we came from originally. Why did they believe this if this was untrue?
Is it really possible that the coldest place on Earth was once warm enough to be inhabited by humans? Well, in 2017, German geologists collected core samples from deep within the frozen Antarctic seafloor in order to analyze what the continent's climate might have been like thousands of years ago. What they discovered was astonishing.
In the case of that expedition in early 2017, we used a very special seafloor drill rig that hasn't been used before in Antarctica. So when we used this special drill rig and the sediments came up, we saw immediately more than 60 different taxa of plants, similar to something that you would find in a rainforest, in a temperature regime that was similar to what we today know from northern Italy. And finding that on the Antarctic continent, that was the most exciting, because the climatic conditions doesn't today allow any vegetation to survive under those conditions. So based on that location and the environment we found, I think that the Antarctic continent and the secrets that still need to be recovered will tell us a lot about planet Earth.
Cairo, Egypt.
Oh, baby, morning says no. Just let the words come out.
No calories, no sweeteners, all smiles. Bubbly sparkling water. Crack a smile.
Sitting atop a plateau just a few miles west of the Nile River is the Giza Necropolis, perhaps the most famous collection of ruins in the entire world. Believed to be constructed during ancient Egypt's 4th dynasty, around 2550 BC. These limestone monuments attract thousands of tourists every day who come to marvel at the immense pyramids, forbidding tombs, and a mysterious stone symbol known as the Sphinx.
I think you can argue that the Sphinx is the most recognizable statue anywhere in the world. Its scale is immense. It's one single piece of stone. It is cut from the natural rock of the Giza Plateau.
The Sphinx stands 240 feet long, 66 feet tall, and 62 feet wide. For thousands of years, this massive statue has been an object of both fascination and wonder. But even after centuries of study, the Sphinx holds many secrets that archaeologists are still trying to unravel.
The Sphinx that we know today, the Sphinx from the Great Pyramids of Giza, is the most famous of all sphinxes. But there are sphinxes all over ancient Egypt. There are smaller sphinxes. There's an avenue full of sphinxes between the temples.
But the Great Sphinx of Giza is something very different. It's a single sculpture. It sits in a very particular place. It doesn't seem to have performed the same function at all.
That was good.
No one has understood exactly what it means. Because for literally thousands of years, the Sphinx was buried up to his neck in sand. So it's only a head sticking out of sand for much of its history.
There is a very famous painting of Emperor Napoleon standing in front of the Sphinx, buried still at this point up to his shoulders. You might think, what has Napoleon got to do with the Egyptian Sphinx? Well, in fact, Napoleon led an invasion of Egypt in 1798, which had a big impact back in Europe, raising awareness and interest in ancient Egypt sites.
It wasn't until the 1920s that a team of archaeologists, led by engineer Emile Barrès, succeeded in unearthing the Sphinx from the desert sands.
They were able to reveal for the first time in centuries that this was not just a disembodied head, but a full Sphinx sculpture. And this is a watershed moment for us understanding the Sphinx.
Archaeologists and Egyptologists like myself believe that the Sphinx was sculpted around 2500 BC by King Khephren as a part of his funerary complex. But a lot of scholars disagree about the Sphinx, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding when was the Sphinx actually sculpted.
One of the most important documents we have to do with the dating of the Sphinx is the Inventory Stela. This is a commemorative stone that actually records details of how the pharaoh Khufu repaired the Sphinx after it was struck by lightning. The significance of this is that
Duvall, the runner at first with one gone in the inning. Albies with a 1-1 count now.
That was a great hit right there. Timing was on point. Just sometimes you have bad bat barrel accuracy.
challenge is trust. Do you trust just any AI to speak for your business? When it comes to customer experience, you want your AI to be as good as your best employee. Because if it isn't, they end up with some unexpected results. In the CX AI race, the Dyson Lake was accurate, trusted, and complete AI built for CX on a unified cloud platform. Get ahead of the curve with Dyson Lake. CX AI now. I'm ready. We'll think that'll happen.
Runners off for second. He swings and misses. Throw down. And no throw, in fact, as he'll just hang on to it. No score here as we play inning number 2. Line drive to center field. That's in there. Base hit.
Throw it.
Can't fault the pitcher for going back-to-back changeups right there. First pitch, he swung through. Timing looked a little off, but he went back. The batter made the adjustment and was able to drive it for a base hit.
Here's the catcher, Travis d'Arnaud. As the first pitch to him is a changeup that can't find the zone. It's ball 1. Downstairs, 2 balls and no strikes.
Has to be a challenge pitch coming up here. He probably doesn't want to flirt with loading the bases.
Cold strike on the corner. Good changeup that time.
Gutsy pitch right there. 2-0 changeup for a strike. Good call by the catcher. Great execution by the pitcher.
Now the 2-1 pitch. On the ground is short. This could be 2. Bichette's got it. Throw to first. Not in time as the run was across the score. Stepping in for the Braves, Dansby Swanson. Set and the pitch. That's back toward the mound. This will be a tough turn, however. And indeed, he'll not even try as he goes to first, and that means 2 men are in scoring position now with 2 away. Stepping in once again is Eddie Rosario. 0 for 1 here in the early going. Into the corner and slicing foul. Ready with the 0-1. Second and third, 2 away. A ball and 2 strikes. This is hit the other way out toward left field. Gurriel finds some space out there for the catch to retire. Now to the plate here is
Jew.
He'll get us going here in the bottom of the second. First pitch on its way. Fastball just misses. That's ball 1. Bichette has a history in coming through in the clutch moments, of course. It's always a little bit of a debate whether or not being clutch is actually a trait that a player possesses. But with him, there's no denying it. We've seen him deliver in big moments repeatedly throughout his career. It just seems he elevates his game somehow when the pressure is on.
Yeah, Matty, he has definitely put that debate to rest. He has absolute ice water.
Blue Jays shortstop with a 1-2 count. Can't connect with the bunt attempt, and that's a strikeout. And he makes the throw to first. Bichette is retired, and there's 1 away. So now here is George Springer, and we'll see if he can at least put the ball in play, something the first 4 men have been unable to do. Bunt attempt here as he gets this one down. And the throw is too late. He's on with a beautifully placed bunt single.
Yeah, we did it. Got one.
It'll be Lourdes Gurriel.
Greg and I, we normalize and we go about our life the same way that everyone else does.
Now here's the first offering. Oh, and a hearty cut there to begin the at-bat. It's nothing in 1.
Collecting cursed objects was complete accident. It wasn't something that we had set out to do. Never would have imagined myself doing this. We were just interested in general weirdness.
Well, he looks like he's toying with him here. It's 0-2.
And we were both very interested in the idea of cursed objects. We slowly gained a reputation of being particularly good people for this. And so anytime anyone had a problem...
Rarely do you see a player of his caliber fooled that badly, but he was tied up in knots that time. 2 away now.
Third baseman. Santiago Espinal.
So we built up this collection of very bizarre things.
So now to the plate, Santiago Espinal. As he'll get caught chasing a bad one there, it's strike 1. He takes his first cuts in this one with a man at first and 2 away.
I want to load these fucking bases, bro. Let's load up these bases.
You think the cursed objects you want
misses the bunt attempt, and we'll see what's up now on 0-2.
He's out.
In other words, the view is special. It's special. If this chair is cursed, it's different from every other chair in the world. And that
lays off that time, and it's 1-2.
Love the high heater right there to raise the hitter's sights. Let's see if he buries something in the dirt right here.
That appeals to a certain calm streak that we all have.